something a little bit nippy and dancey for treble players today. So it's a collection that I bought years and years ago and have really, really enjoyed. Johann Daniel Hardt. It's a Charivari Agreeable publication, so edited by Susie Heinrich. And it's been unavailable for years, and I keep teaching people and saying, you've got to get hold of this, and they keep coming back and saying, we can't get it, it's not available. So I wrote to Susie and said, I'd love to do a piece from here, is there any chance of it becoming available again? And she said, oh, by complete chance, 2 weeks ago I decided I would make all of these currently out of print publications available on my website as PDF downloads. So fantastically, we can do a couple of movements from here. So I've got links underneath the video to PDFs that you can download and print now of just the 2 pages for these 2 pieces, but also a link to Susie's website. Really do go and have a look. It's great to find good, playable, tuneful, enjoyable repertoire actually written for the treble viol. So I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend it. Let's have a look at the Courant to start with. So it goes something like this. It's really sweet, isn't it? Does make me want to dance. It's a great key. I love the Bach bit in the middle. And just the kind of joyousness of it. So, shall we have a look then from the top? First things first, back bow. First position. 4th finger for me, I think. Chordal fingering. I've used a 4 there as well to get all of that. And 4th finger trill on that G. You could tuck the F sharp in as you like, really. Apart from that, it all kind of sits under the fingers very nicely. Why don't we try it from the top? I'll count you a whole bar and 2 crotchets in, and we'll go nice and steady just to have a go. So we'll try 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Should we repeat it? What about this crotchet at the beginning? I like it if it lifts a bit rather than. So what am I doing? Just giving it a little bit of front from the middle finger of the right hand on the hair of the bow. So just a little bit of a ping at the beginning. But if you do that, if you put the pressure on and then you keep it, then it's going to bite and not speak terribly well. So as soon as you've started to move the bow, you have to let that pressure go. And the rest of the note hasn't got quite so much body to it. And it gives a nice lifted, light, airy upbeat. Let's try that first section a bit quicker. A bar and 2 beats in. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We'll go on for a minute and then we'll come back and think about some musical shape in a second. I tend to start this on 4. It doesn't really matter. It'd be quite nice on an open string, wouldn't it? As you wish. wish. And again, that slightly lifted upbeats. Couple of things to think about in there. The end of 11. I love playing the treble. You can get all the way up there without having to shift, can't you? Top note first, yeah, and then the bowing is a bit of a problem from here. I actually take out the slur at the end of 15, otherwise you end up with the whole of that next bit being backwards. So I take this out, so then I'm right at the tip. Once you put the E down, you're going to bar it across to the B and bar it again there. There's a string crossing exercise in there, isn't there? Of I think it needs to not be that kind of. It's just too much like hard work, and a courant is a lively, running dance, so it needs that kind of lift to it rather than too much like hard work. So just don't use too much bow and keep it nice and light and springy. This needs to be a 3 on the C. So you've got a finger for the G left over as well. Chordal finger. 4. Open string. I took an extra slur in here because otherwise again we're going to be backwards for ages. So I just... the first 2 quavers of 22. I haven't found a better solution and I quite like it. There's a good chance for holding your fingers down. There's a lot of places in here where you can do that. 23. That B hasn't gone anywhere. Chordal finger in here. 2, 3. And that's that section. Shall we try it? Not too quick. I'll count you a bar and 2 in again. So we're 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Actually, that time, right at the end, I played a 3 on the C. I think the previous time I reached back for the F. It doesn't matter. I don't follow my own advice in there, which is always pick a fingering, write it in and stick to it so that you don't do different things each time. How about a second shot at the second half? So we're 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. What about the musical shape of this thing then? It's just loads and loads of quavers, isn't it? And if you're not careful, dull. So I think the knack is to know really precisely what you think the shape is and what you think the function of each note is. Maybe to play it a few times where you really spell that out, and then to smooth it over and make it more subtle. So for example, I think that might be the opening thing, and then but within that you want a sense of coming up to the top, and you can do such a lot of this with just the length of the bow. So how much bow do you need even for that first crotchet? It's just not necessary, is it? But if you start here, you're kind of compromised on the amount of beauty you can give to it. So I think you maybe want half of your bow, third of your bow, so you can give it a proper elegant shape. And that C in the second bar, I would really just tickle it. But at the end of the bar, I'm making sure I've got really good contact between the bow and the string for that to lead on. And then I think that bit, it's just outlining a chord, isn't it? The melody is here. Actually, and that, and then this bit is one great big long line, so more and more bow per quaver. What goes up must come down. So if I over exaggerate, that's not very subtle, is it? I feel like that's saying to an audience, have you heard what I think this phrase does? I think it goes like this. So once you've worked that out, then you can just temper it a bit so that it's slightly less spelt out and slightly more subtle. So I'm not keeping on kind of pausing and waiting. I'm doing more of it just by shape of note, how important or how much some of those notes thrown away, whereas others have got a really good contact. What you'll find is you just experiment a bit, and you'll find sometimes that you do something and it really doesn't work, it really interrupts the flow, or it just stops sounding elegant because you're working too hard, and you'll find others where you think, oh yeah, that's what that's about. It's all one long line. Or you'll think, that's a cadence, isn't it, at the end? And it starts there. So just do a bit of experimenting, and in the second half, that's another really nice little molehill. Not as big as a mountain. That one, same thing, higher. So perhaps the shape of this one just gets exaggerated up there. And that's different, isn't it, at the end? You think you know where it's going to go because where the previous two have ended up. Make sure you've got time for the trill there. And then that could maybe just get going gradually. That's a bit of a question mark, isn't it? What's going to happen? That's what's going to happen. two G's in that bar, just not important. But this, plenty of contact with the strings. It's a nice note up there. So this bit is all about the top notes. This one, and then this is just nothing at the end, isn't it? Supply me a C major cadence, okay? So the second half. And again, I'm spelling it out there so you can really hear what I'm thinking. But I think it's really helpful to practice like that so that you know where every single one of those quavers belongs. What is its function? Is it moving on in a melodic sort of way? Is it just marking time? Is it a harmonic thing? Or what? What is the shape? Is that somewhere that's the climax of the phrase, or is that somewhere that's just not very important? So if you can answer all of those questions for each quaver in that courant, then you'll have a really convincing shape to play with, I think. Why don't we go on and look at the gigue on the next page? And then, once we've learnt them both, perhaps I'll play the continuo part and you can play along on the top. So the gigue goes like this. So the first thing in this that catches me out quite a lot is the first note, the upbeat, which you kind of expect to be a quaver, is actually a crotchet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 2. So just have a think about that without it sounding kind of heavy. 1 and 2. The biggest problem in this is the slurred pair of quavers, 1 quaver. Slurred pair of quavers, 1 quaver. So you're likely, if you're not careful, to quite quickly run out of bow. So just, there are 2 solutions to that, and one is to not use too much on the forward bow, and the other is to be very light and very speedy on the 3rd crotchet of each set. The 3rd quaver, rather, of each set. C can stay, can't it? Now, I'm in 2 minds about this next bit. I'd like for the pair of quavers to be on the same string, so I'd like to use a 4 for the D, but I'm busy using my 4 up here, and I can't decide which is better. It's a bit of a shame to hop it across, but the open string, I can't decide. I've been using the open string for now, but try out both and see what you prefer. Possibility. You have to chordal finger this. This has to be a 4. That's awkward, isn't it? You've got to miss the E string out. across the strings without making any sound? No. And if not, why not? And if you put more pressure on, does it help? If you take some pressure off, does it help? You have to be able to miss out the E string without it sounding in there. I think you have to go for a 4, you can't possibly go for the open string. Should we try that then from the top? Let's go nice and steady. I'm actually going to count your quavers in so we can try and work out the length of that opening crotchet. So we'll try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The amount of bow you use is crucial as well. If you're too exuberant about it, it's just going to get really untidy. So keep it nice and contained in the top half of the bow. Let's try it once more. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. In terms of shape, I'm throwing quite a lot of those third quavers away, just making them very light. And the crotchet very light. Light again there. But then here, I think it's quite nice to go through there, this one, lead to the F sharp. And again, it's ways of just making sure that the repeated pattern doesn't sound like the same thing every time you play it. So you're really certain of the function and the shape and the purpose of each of those little sets of 3. Otherwise it can get very mechanical. All its life and all its character. Let's go on to the second half. Lots of 4s in there. On the octave leap, really important, you don't take the bottom finger off. Then you can reach all of this, can't you? So I'm going to use diatonic fingering all the way up to the top fret. Chordal fingering there. Open string. Really reminds me of Bach, this, just for that little bit. Bachian air to it, hasn't it? So this is bar 15, 1, 4. And look at this, none of this has come off. I think you could usefully take this slur out and then put them in as printed to the end. Again, think about how much bow you're using in here. If you get this bit stuck down here, it's really awkward. There's a chordal fingering moment. And just watch that was not enormous at the very end. This is the second section then coming up. Not too quick. 1 and 2. again, just thinking about the shape. Lots of that just very light. Plenty of contact on the string. This one, I think it's nice if that goes through. That minim, it's got a bloom to it, but I don't think it needs to be solid right the way through. I'd let it go a bit so that this is another one where you just need to decide where each of your quavers belongs. It's just a chord, isn't it? You need to hear the seventh in it. And the fact that that time, whoops, you make it to the top of the chord. And then it's just a kind of standard no frills cadence. So don't make too much of a feature of that. Shall we run the whole Gigue from the top? Let's do both repeats. So we'll try 1, 2, 1, 2. They make me smile. I just think they're such good pieces, and C major is such a nice key, isn't it? So how about I put this down and I fish out a bass, and we try both of those movements with the continuo part in. We'll go back to the Courant first then, shall we? You start. So I'm going to count a whole bar and 2 in so that we have a chance of going at the same speed. Here we go. We'll do all the repeats, so the whole piece with both repeats in it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And for the Gigue, you start 2, so I'll count you 2 bars in. 2, 1, 2.